Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening a file that honestly sits right on the desk of every school counselor and psychologist in Malaysia.
Yeah, it's a big one today. We are talking about the mental resilience of our students.
Right. And we've pulled together some real heavy hitters for this.
Mm.
We're looking at the National Health and Morbidity Survey, this massive global study from the UK called Myriad, and a local framework called Mindful Gym.
It is a compelling stack of research. And I just want to say, if you are working in a school right now, whether you are the counselor, the psychologist, or just someone tasked with student well-being, this is your briefing.
Because you are the ones dealing with the realities on the ground.
Exactly. You're the ones holding space for everyone else. You see it every day. You know, walking into a school today, there's that buzz of energy. The assembly is loud. Kids are laughing. The canteen is chaotic.
But there's also something else going on, something you don't necessarily see at first glance.
Right. It's what we call the invisible backpacks of worry. These students are carrying so much weight, and you can't see it just by looking at them in the hallway.
That is such a powerful image, the invisible backpacks,
Yeah.
because the data suggests those backpacks are getting really heavy.
They are. Let's look at the numbers from the NHMS, the National Health and Morbidity Survey from 2022. The statistics are, frankly, alarming.
Yeah, let's get right into the stakes here.
1 in 4 Malaysian adolescents reports being depressed.
Let's just pause on that for a second. 1 in 4.
Yeah.
If you look at a standard classroom, say 40 students, that is 10 kids. 10 kids in a single room dealing with depression.
That is the reality you're walking into every morning. And it doesn't stop there. 16.2% feel lonely. Almost 13%, so more than 1 in 10, can't sleep because of worry.
Wow, 13% just lying awake at night.
Exactly. And these aren't just numbers on a page. These are the kids acting out in the back row, or honestly, arguably worse, the quiet ones. The ones who seem totally fine, getting good grades, but are drowning silently.
So the immediate reaction from the education sector, both globally and locally, has naturally been that we need an intervention. We have to do something.
Right.
And for the last decade or so, the silver bullet has supposedly been mindfulness. Just teach the kids to breathe, get them to meditate, and everything will be fine.
That was the hope, yeah. It sounds great on paper, but this is where our deep dive takes a bit of a turn. Because today, we aren't just here to cheerlead for mindfulness.
No, we have to look at what actually works.
Exactly. We need to look at the evidence. And to
Yeah.
do that, we have to talk about the absolute titan of mindfulness research, the Myriad Project.
Right, the UK study. And when you say Titan, I mean, you aren't kidding. The scale of this thing is wild.
Oh, it's massive. Over 28,000 teenagers,
28,000.
100 schools, 650 teachers. This wasn't some little pilot program in a single district. This was the gold standard.
And what were they trying to figure out?
They wanted a definitive answer to a very specific question. If we take a standard mindfulness curriculum, right, and we put it into regular classrooms, make it universal, for everyone, does it prevent depression in early adolescence?
And I think everyone, especially people in the wellness industry, expected a huge, resounding yes. The whole industry is built on this premise.
Sure, they fully expected it to work. But the answer was no.
That is just such a record scratch moment.
It really was. The headline result was no. For the students, the mindfulness classes were literally not better than normal school lessons, what they call teaching as usual.
I can hear our listeners right now, the counselors, just asking why. If mindfulness is supposed to reduce stress, how did it just bounce off these teenagers?
It's a combination of things. But first, let's look at the homework aspect. The program relied heavily on students practicing at home.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they were supposed to go home and do these breathing exercises, body scans, all of that.
Asking a 14-year-old to do regular homework is already a battle, but asking them to do mental homework.
Exactly. 80% didn't do it. And mindfulness is a skill, you know?
Yeah.
It's like learning to swim or playing the piano. If you don't do the reps, you don't build the muscle.
So compliance was a huge issue, but there was something even more concerning in the data, wasn't there, regarding the vulnerable students?
Yes. And this is the part that really keeps psychologists up at night. For the kids who are already struggling, the high-risk students who maybe had existing trauma or high levels of anxiety, the universal mindfulness classes didn't just fail to help.
Right.
In some cases, it might have actually made things slightly worse.
That feels so counterintuitive. How does sitting quietly in a classroom make mental health worse?
Well, think about it like this. Imagine you have a student with deep-seated trauma. You ask them to sit still, close their eyes, and pay very close attention to their thoughts and what they're feeling in their body.
Okay.
If they don't have the psychological tools to handle what suddenly bubbles up,
Yeah.
and if the teacher at the front of the room isn't a trained therapist, that student can become completely overwhelmed.
Ah, I see. You're basically turning up the volume on their internal noise, but you aren't giving them the remote to turn it back down.
Precisely. You are stirring up all these complex feelings without providing a safety net. There's a big difference between uncovering feelings and actually processing them safely.
That makes a lot of sense. And that brings us to the teachers in this study, because they weren't therapists, right?
No, they were regular school teachers. Now, they were competent, dedicated professionals, but they were trained in mindfulness for just 4 days.
4 days, that's it.
4 days. It's what we call the advanced beginner problem. It's like learning to swim from someone who just read a book about swimming, maybe took a quick weekend workshop.
Right. They might be able to keep you from drowning, but they definitely can't train you for the Olympics.
Exactly. And when you are standing in front of a room of 30 cynical teenagers, you need way more than just the basics to hold that emotional space.
So for the kids, it just felt forced. It was just another subject to endure. Open your books, do your math, and now close your eyes and do your breathing.
Yeah, and the adolescent brain just completely rebels against that kind of forced compliance. So on the surface, Myriad looks like a total disaster for mindfulness in schools.
But we aren't throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. Because you mentioned earlier that there were some hidden gems in this study.
There were. And this is a huge pivot point for our listeners. While the students didn't show those massive improvements, the teachers who trained in mindfulness reported feeling significantly better.
Oh, really?
Yes, they had lower levels of stress and much less burnout.
Which is incredibly important right now, given the burnout rates we see in the teaching profession.
It is massive. And because the teachers felt better, the data showed that the overall school climate improved. The whole vibe of the school got better.
How does that work if the kids aren't doing the exercises?
Think of the teacher as the thermostat of the classroom. If the teacher is regulated, calm, and present, they set a cooler, calmer temperature for the whole room.
Ah, I love that analogy.
Even if the kids didn't learn the skills perfectly, they were existing in a calmer environment because the adults were calmer.
So the indirect benefit of the program might actually be stronger than the direct benefit. A calm teacher creates a calm classroom.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is the UK context. A massive study, some really disappointing direct results for the kids, but a huge lesson on how not to do it, and a win for teacher well-being.
Right.
Now, let's bring this plane down in Malaysia, because I can easily imagine a school principal in KL or Penang listening to this and saying, well, if it failed in the UK with all their funding and resources, why on earth should we try it here?
And that is exactly the apples versus durians comparison we need to make. We have to look at the baseline of the two systems.
Okay, let's break that down.
In the UK study, the control group, the kids who didn't get the mindfulness classes, they weren't just sitting in a vacuum doing nothing. UK schools already have high-quality social-emotional learning, or SEL, deeply embedded in their curriculum.
Oh, so the mindfulness program was actually competing against a really strong opponent.
Correct. It was trying to beat a system that was already working quite well.
And what's the reality here in Malaysia? Do we have a formal, standalone SEL subject in our government schools?
No, we don't. It is completely distributed. It's fragmented across moral education, Islamic studies, civics.
So a teacher might touch on empathy during moral class, but there isn't a dedicated, structured time just for emotional regulation.
Exactly. So the better than none argument really applies here. In Malaysia, we aren't replacing a top-tier SEL program with mindfulness. We're introducing something structured where there's currently a huge gap.
That is a crucial strategic difference. We aren't trying to fix a working system. We're trying to build a foundation from scratch.
Yes, but we can't just import the UK curriculum. We already know the British kids thought it was boring and forced. Malaysian kids will feel the exact same way. Plus, you have the cultural disconnect.
Right. A program designed in Oxford might not resonate with a teenager in a secondary school in Johor.
Exactly. We need a system that fits us, a local solution. And thankfully, we actually have one. It's called Mindful Gym.
Mindful Gym. I have to say, I love that branding. It sounds active. It doesn't sound like you're just going to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop.
That is entirely the point. It was developed locally by Dr. Fang Cheng Kar, who is a consultant psychiatrist here in Malaysia.
Okay.
And crucially, it is evidence-based. It's been tested right here on medical students and nurses people in incredibly high-stress environments, and the results were really positive. Reduced stress, better coping mechanisms.
So what actually is it? If it isn't about emptying your mind or floating on clouds, what are the students doing?
The definition they use is really grounding. It's simply remembering to pay attention to the present moment with kindness, a beginner's mind, and wisdom.
Remembering to pay attention, I like that word, remembering. It implies you already have the ability, you just forgot how to use it.
That's the key. And the gym metaphor is very intentional. You treat the mind like a muscle. You don't just go to a physical gym once and expect to be fit for the rest of your life.
Right, you have to keep going back.
You have to do reps. In mindful gym, you are doing reps of attention and reps of kindness. It's an inner workout.
So how does it fit the Malaysian context specifically? You mentioned cultural disconnect earlier.
It uses very local examples and metaphors. For example, Dr. Fang uses the concept of teh cham ka.
Yeah.
You know, that really strong mix of tea and coffee we drink at the Kopitiam.
Oh, I love that.
He uses it to explain mixed emotions, like you can feel two strong things at once. There's also local music, like the Abatu Mindfulness song. It just makes it instantly accessible.
It grounds it in their actual daily life.
Yeah.
And I imagine it also helps with the religious concerns. Because in Malaysia, there is often a real fear that mindfulness is secretly a Buddhist meditation practice in disguise.
Yes, that is a very real barrier for implementation in our national schools. We are a multi-ethnic, multi-religious society.
Right.
Mindful Gym respects that diversity completely. It addresses the religious elephant in the room head-on. It is secular. It defines mindfulness strictly as a mental training tool, not a spiritual practice.
So it's safe for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's friendly to Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. It doesn't clash with anyone's values. It actually supports them.
Okay, so let's put the pieces together. We have the why the adolescent mental health crisis.
Yeah.
We have the warning, the myriad study showing us what to avoid. And we have the tool, Mindful Gym.
Right.
But if I'm a school counselor listening to this right now, I'm thinking, okay, I have the tool, but I need the roadmap. How do I actually introduce this in my school without causing those adverse effects we saw in the UK?
That brings us to the proposed framework for Malaysian schools. It's called MUSEL.
MUSEL. Can you break down that acronym for us?
Sure, it stands for Mindfulness, Universal Social Emotional Learning Malaysia.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, but the logic inside it is really sound.
Yep.
Think of it as a very simple formula. You have the what, the how, and the who.
Okay, what is the what?
What are the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning? These are our targets: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making.
So those are the actual life skills we want the students to walk away with,
Exactly. Then you have the how.
which is mindful gym.
Right. We use those gym skills, the inner workout, the reps of attention and kindness as the method to build those 5 competencies.
Got it. But here is the most important part, especially based on why Myriad failed. The who. Because we clearly cannot just blast this out to every single student in the exact same way.
Absolutely not. That is dangerous. And this is where New Zealand is so smart. It uses a 3-tier system. This is all about safety and resource allocation.
Walk us through these 3 tiers.
Okay, tier 1 is universal. This is for everyone in the school. And if you're listening, write this down. It is light. It is very short.
We aren't asking them to do 40-minute body stands.
No, we are talking about micro pauses. Maybe 15 to 20 minutes a week total, or just a quick 60 seconds before assembly starts.
So it's just a tiny reset.
Yes. Tier 1 is just learning to pause. It's safe for everyone because it doesn't dig deep into the psyche. It just regulates the nervous system a little bit.
Okay, that definitely handles the boring homework problem from the UK study. What about tier 2?
Tier 2 is targeted. This is for small groups of students who are facing a specific, often temporary stressor.
Like exam anxiety.
Exactly. A group of kids terrified of their SPM exams. Or maybe a small group struggling with anger management. They get a bit more focused training, but it's still very contained.
And then we have tier 3, which I assume is the high-risk group we talked about earlier.
Yes. Tier 3 is indicated. These are the students who are clinically depressed, traumatized, or suffering from severe anxiety.
The ones Myriad warned us about.
Right. The study taught us very clearly, do not put these kids in a generic classroom setting and tell them to close their eyes and look inward.
Because that's when things get worse.
Exactly. So in the MUSEL framework, Tier 3 students don't get a general class. They get you.
The listener. The school counselor.
Yes. They get specific, one-on-one interventions. They get referrals to clinical psychologists if needed. We do not try to fix deep psychological wounds with a basic breathing exercise.
That distinction is so important. It protects the vulnerable student, but it also really protects the teacher. The math teacher or the English teacher doesn't have to pretend to be a therapist.
Exactly. And speaking of the teachers, Museum has one final, absolutely critical rule. It's the oxygen mask rule.
Put your own mask on before helping others.
Yes. USELV starts with the teachers. Before you roll this out to a single student, you train the staff. Remember those positive results from Myriad about teacher burnout?
Right, the thermostat analogy.
We need to fix the adults first. The framework uses tools like the stressmometer to help teachers check in on their own stress levels.
Because you really cannot give what you do not have. If a teacher is dysregulated, totally stressed out, maybe shouting no amount of mindfulness curriculum is going to magically make the students in that room resilient.
Never. A regulated adult is the single best intervention for a dysregulated child. That is the baseline of the whole program.
I really love this. This feels like a much more mature, realistic approach than just saying, hey, let's do mindfulness. It's a structural support system, not a magic pill.
It has to be structural. The problems are too big for a quick fix.
So let's recap the journey we've taken today. We started with those really tough NHMS stats. We learned from the UK that a one-size-fits-all approach is a myth and can actually be harmful. And we've landed on a localized Malaysian solution that prioritizes safety and teacher well-being.
It is a genuinely hopeful path forward. It acknowledges how complex the situation is without giving up.
If our listeners take away just 3 core messages from this deep dive, something they can take to their headmaster or share in their next department meeting, what should those be?
First message, teacher first. Do not try to bypass the adults to get to the kids. If you improve staff well-being, you will automatically improve the school climate. You have to start there.
Okay, teacher first. What is the second?
Second, one size does not fit all. Use the 3-tier system. Keep the universal stuff incredibly light and brief, just micro pauses. Do not force deep introspection on vulnerable students without proper support. Keep them safe.
Safety in tiers. And the third message?
Third, local context matters. We aren't the UK. We have a unique education system with different gaps. Museum and Mindful Gym work because they actually speak the language, both literally and culturally, of Malaysia.
That is a brilliant summary. Now, we never let our listeners leave the deep dive without a call to action. We know they can't just overhaul the Ministry of Education curriculum by next Monday.
No, definitely not.
But what is one small practical thing they can do this week?
Here's my challenge for you this week. Introduce a micropause. Just 60 seconds.
Just 1 minute.
Just 1 minute. Do it for yourself right before you walk into a staff meeting. Or, if you're feeling a bit brave, lead your colleagues in it before you start the meeting.
That is definitely doable. What do they actually do for those 60 seconds?
Just feel your feet on the floor. Notice your breathing. Just remember to pay attention.
I like that.
Changing a deeply ingrained school culture takes years, but it really does start with one mindful breath.
It does. Now, I want to leave you, our listeners, with one final provocative thought to chew on. We've talked a lot today about fitting mindfulness into schools and building resilience in kids.
Right.
But here's the question we have to ask ourselves. Are we trying to use schools to fix the problem that society itself is creating? If we desperately need resilience training for 12-year-olds just so they can cope, maybe the issue isn't that they lack skills.
Ooh, that's a big question.
Maybe the issue is the absolute pressure cooker we have put them in. Are we just teaching them to cope with a broken system that we should actually be trying to change?
That really is the ultimate question for everyone in education.
It's something to think about as you walk the halls this week. To all of the school counselors and psychologists listening today, thank you. You are doing the heavy lifting out there. We really hope this deep dive gave you some new practical tools for your toolbox. Keep up the incredibly important work you do.
We will see you next time on The Deep Dive.